Okay, now it's live, and I'm literally right on time because one, I'm not showing my mug today because of a general laziness at the moment, and I am not presentable for a camera. So you're just going to see the avatar on the screen. Secondly, I was going to do screen caps of some of the stuff that came off of Shadow Fox's Twitter, um, but I decided not to again because of laziness. I will talk about it, and if I need to, I will post a link to his Twitter account so people can see for themselves. But I'm not going to be posting the screenshots because I don't necessarily have to look at everything to make the point that I'm going to make. And I'm going to say something that is very clearly going to bother a lot of people about the Xbox Series S and X, and people will be very pissed off with me about it. So, I mean, if they listen to this anyway, because they'll be like, "How can you say that? That's stupid." And when you think about what I'm going to say and what I'm going to tell you, it's actually logically consistent and not stupid at all. Plus, it'll maybe clear some things up where people think about the Switch's generational leaning, because several things are true for one that are not true for the other. And I do want to get to that, but that's toward the end of the discussion after I talk about the stuff that covers what Shadow Fox does when he debates people, which is basically just what I've seen is a standardized way of debating, to be honest, because I watch a lot of different debate YouTubers. So I listen to how they debate and I see the same logical movements happen when he does what he does. The only difference is people are on Twitter and don't want to actually vocalize directly, whether that's because they're afraid to be on a live stream, two, they just really don't care about being on a live stream, or three, they just like to troll, or maybe even four, they're just not certain that if they go live with him that they're not going to be made out to look like an idiot. So let's cover this stuff with Shadow Fox most recently, where he made a post about people bashing streaming to the Switch because it's not native, but they're praising the Steam Deck for using Proton to play games through, which is also not native to the hardware. It wasn't about which one was better. And he specifically worded it so that you could understand he was meaning that people are highlighting the wrong reason as to why they should be mad about the Switch getting Kingdom Hearts as a cloud version rather than talking about Proton being bad for the Steam Deck to use to run games on the hardware, because Steam Deck is basically running a mostly Linux-based operating system. Everybody knows that. Hey, what's up, Dark Void and Jay? But people, it's easy to get people's emotions riled up when you say something that sounds like it should be wrong, but it's not. And that's why I'm going to be making the point that I make later on, because I know it would make a lot of people blow their top if they heard this. And then they'll be like, hold on, that doesn't make sense. That's not true at all. And when I get to that point, what I'm going to be saying, while everything is logically consistent, the main point is not something I actually believe. It's just something that you could actually argue if you were to have a debate. And again, people don't think in this mindset. They don't think with the logic and reasoning or try to see the ploy that's being dropped in front of them. Because Shadow Fox is great at baiting the hell out of people. I swear, I could say the same exact thing as him and wouldn't get anywhere near as much attention. Like, he's great at baiting people. I'm good at interpreting it. So this is like, when I see it, I'm like, man, y'all fall for these traps real quick, because I'm breaking down what he's saying bit by bit and paying attention to what the subject matter is as well as the context in which he is utilizing that subject. So the issue of people saying that it sucks that Kingdom Hearts games are not being run native on the Switch, but then they'll talk about being able to run the same games on the Steam Deck. It's not being run natively because it's not coded to the hardware. That was his point. His point was it's not being coded to the hardware, and a bunch of people flipped their shit. Like they literally lost their minds and couldn't understand why he was making that comparison. He never said that cloud versions of games are better than using Protron to run games on the Steam Deck. He never made that claim. And it was like that was the point people were attacking. I was like, looking, I was like, do y'all not really understand that you've been baited into an argument? And on top of that, when he baits you into the argument, you literally agree with what he's saying. You literally agree with what he's saying. So at that point, if this was an official debate, you would have lost. You literally would have lost because you gave way to that standpoint. And on top of that, the point that you attacked was not the subject matter that was being discussed. And I think one person was saying that it's what's the word I'm looking for? Semantics. He was arguing semantics. Like, no, if that's his main argument, there are no semantics involved. The semantics is when you go off and straw man onto something else other than what was being talked about. And even if you don't realize you're doing it, you're still doing it. You got caught up in your emotions rather than stopping to think and it's like, hold on, there's a reason that this is being said. There's literally a reason this is being said. And he's speaking in literal lines of context, a statement that is completely true. It is hypocritical for people to bash cloud versions of games running on the Switch because it's not native to the hardware when people praise the Steam Deck for playing games through Protron, which is also not native. That's the whole argument. That's the whole point. That's it. Now, yes, most people would logically say, but it's still local to the Steam Deck. It's there. You have that data. You have that information. You can touch it and use it and play it whenever you feel like it. It's there. It's local. You have access to it at all times. You don't need an internet connection to be able to work it. That's the argument that people went with instead of looking at what he actually said. Now, granted, yeah, and I looked at the statement. I first thought that I was like, hold on, let me stop and take a second, rethink, and pay attention to the subject that he's running with here. Like, we can all agree that running games on Steam Deck using Protron because they don't natively run in, at least most of them don't natively run in Linux, is a good idea. It would be a better idea than having cloud versions of games running on the Switch. There's no argument against that. None. No disagreement with that statement. Everybody knows that. So that's where he gets people trapped up. And he does this a lot, and people don't pay attention. I'm like, there are several people that go back and forth with him most of the time that are very bold when it comes to typing, but they will not join in with a live stream with him and actually talk. Because honestly, in the situations where the people have been willing to come talk, you generally find out that they mostly agree with everything that he's saying when you break down the points, and he's done it multiple times. So if you agree with most of what he's saying, but you just don't like the way he says it, then that's an issue with you personally, but that doesn't change what he said. That doesn't make what he said wrong. It doesn't make it incorrect. It just makes it so that you dislike the form that it took. And that's a personal problem. That's a personal issue. That's a personal thing that you got to find a way to figure out and handle. That's not Shadow Fox was wrong, or he said something wrong, or he said something that was stupid. That was, I mistook what he said and applied the meaning to it that wasn't actually there. And that typically is the case. That's usually the argument that comes about. And a lot of people don't see it. Then they'll say, well, he took the L. Like, do y'all understand like how debate works? Like, I'm going to guess and assume that many of them don't. Me personally, I know I'm not set for debate. I'm not good for debating because I'll get pissed off. I will. I know I would. I mean, I have enough rants on YouTube to prove that. I would get agitated. I would be thinking the whole time. I would be cognitive of what's going on, but I would get agitated. That's why I'm not personally good for debates. I know I'm not. But for this particular thing, now that I've clarified the whole point that I had to make about Shadow Fox, I'm going to say something that people are going to think I am nuts for saying. And then I will give you reasoning as to why I say it and why it works. Xbox Series S and X are 8th gen consoles. I'm going to let that marinate for a few seconds. Xbox Series S and X are 8th gen consoles. They're very powerful consoles, but they're 8th gen. And you want to know why? Because the Switch is 8th gen. The only 9th gen console on the market right now is the PS5. Somebody's going to be, I know somebody's going to listen to this on the playback and be like, hold on, what the hell does he mean? There's no way Xbox Series S and X are 8th gen. Yes, they are. And again, for those who don't get it, I don't actually believe this. It's an argument you can make. I'm just simulating what this argument would be. So, if I were to have a debate with somebody and I said Xbox Series S and X are 8th gen consoles, my reasoning would be, firstly, Xbox Series controllers can be used with Xbox One, every iteration of it. 2, they play the same games. They play all of the same games. 3, an iteration of the Series platform is weaker than an iteration of the One platform, the Series S versus the One X. 4, you can play Xbox Series games on an Xbox One through xCloud. Granted, that service is not in place yet for the Xbox One, but you do know there is a workaround for this, correct? You can play an Xbox Series game through xCloud on your PC. And if you have Rainplay installed on your PC as well as your Xbox One, you can use your Xbox One to control the Xbox Series game running on your PC through xCloud. That's a workaround that takes a lot of, it's long and it's arbitrary, but it does work. And on top of that, guess what came out after the Xbox Series S and X? The Nintendo Switch OLED. Which, if the Switch is considered an 8th generation console, that means any new iteration of that would also be an 8th gen console. So there is no way that a system that runs the same games as the Xbox One and you can play those games, and this would actually be forward compatibility. The Xbox One can play the series games, then the series would therefore be 8th gen because all of the parts work interchangeably between them. That would be the argument. That would be how it would work. And seeing as a Series S only scales up to 2K, whereas a 1X can scale up to 4K and has better hardware than a Series S, then the Series S would have to either be a lower or the same generation as the One X. And if the Series S is the same generation as the Series X, then therefore Xbox Series platforms are both 8th gen consoles. It's a sound argument, but here's the flip. If the Nintendo Switch has no working parts that work with the Wii U, which was Nintendo's 8th gen offering for home consoles, then guess what? A console that definitely does work with all of the parts of the other one would be in that generation. It would be that same generation. And there's no two ways about that. So you can either concede that my point is correct or find an argument that actually negates everything that I say. And everything that I say can be proven to be true. So that's how he gets people. That's how he traps them. Gets them into a logical argument that they can't say is wrong. And legitimately, what I just said, everything is correct, except for the statement of obviously the Xbox Series platforms being 8th gen. We all know that that's not true, but you could still argue it. You could still make that point. You could still say that's how it is. And people would fall into that argument and get pissed off and get mad at you for saying it. Even if everything that you say is correct, they would get mad, they'd get irritated, and they'd lose their minds on you. And then they'd say, well, you're just being stupid. But you're technically, no. I'm not technically correct. I'm right. And somebody will argue, well, you can't run the series games on the Xbox One. Oh, yes, you definitely could, especially if Microsoft themselves are making it officially possible with the xCloud. But it's not running native. Who said it had to run native? Kingdom Hearts is going to be running on the Switch through a cloud version. It's not native, but it's still on the Switch. That's how you defeat that argument. Again, that's where people get caught up. So, and I get that somebody's probably going to listen back to this and be so confused until they get to this point. Legitimately, you could make the argument that the Xbox Series consoles are 8th generation. And I am probably going to get dislikes for saying that. I know I'm going to get dislikes for saying that. But that's literally it. So thank you to everyone that did listen into this, that joined in live, and were probably wondering where I was going when I said that the first time and then gave that brief pause. Thank you for being patient enough to actually listen through to the end. And I saw a couple of people jump in and out of the live. So somebody probably heard that and then they ran to tell somebody else that I said that and completely missed all the context that was going to it. And I hope that's the case so that they can come back and look like idiots. I really hope that that's the case, because I would love those comments. And I would love to be able to timestamp people to where I actually said what I actually think. So, yeah. This was intended to be a short live stream. Thank you guys for joining in. Keep your eyes and ears up for more stuff from me. And until the next time, enjoy your games. And if you see Shadow Fox drop another debate trap, grab some popcorn and watch. Peace out, everybody. I'm ending.